Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Cindy, and today we're going to talk about signatures. Part of my purpose in doing these journals, or these videos, I guess I do journals too, is to talk about some of the terms that people use. And we're talking today about signatures. This is a word I had never heard in the context of junk journals, and it confused the heck out of me when I started. I didn't see anyone signing their name on any of the pages, so what the heck were these people in these videos talking about? When you're creating your own journal, there are 4 parts of a book you most need to be concerned with: the cover, the flyleaf, the spine, and the signatures. The term cover is pretty self-explanatory. I'm told we shouldn't judge a book by it, but we always do. And whether it's hardback or paperback or fabric bound or plain cardboard, we'll be making covers in later journals. So we're not really talking about the covers today. The flyleaf is what's inside the cover of the cover of a book. Paperbacks pretty much have just plain paper. Sometimes they print on them, but there isn't much. Old books have this wonderful marbled paper. Isn't that beautiful? And then, in fact, I have another example here I want to show you. This particular dictionary, we had one like this, exactly like this when I was a kid, and it was big and thick, like 5 inches. This particular one is about 7 inches. I think it's because it's mostly falling apart. This is only the cover from it because it's fallen off. I just recently acquired it, and look at the marbled pages here. Aren't they beautiful? Someone obviously tried to repair the cover and put it back on to the dictionary itself. It did not work. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to use this, but oh my glory, it's an absolutely beautiful piece. And I love the marbled covers. Most books have just plain flyleafs, unless you're somebody like Nora Roberts or Brandon Sanderson. I have read this one already. I'm currently reading the Dragonheart Legacy series from Nora Roberts. I am absolutely thrilled with it. I read The Awakening and The Becoming last year. I got The Chosen for Christmas this year, so I'm really excited. I'm halfway through rereading the series, the first 2 books to get to the 3rd. But look at the inside. This is an absolutely beautiful piece. You have, in this case, a book cover that also covers it. And then you have Brandon Sanderson, who's in a class of his own when it comes to book covers. You have the very nice cover here, but inside, look at the artwork. Aren't these beautiful pictures? These are different characters that you see in the books, and they're absolutely stunningly done. But then, not to be outdone, you have a rather plain book. It's purple, one of my favorite colors, so I'm okay with that. But look at inside. You have an entire map of the world in color. Absolutely amazing. Now, when you're talking about journals and covers, you can get as that fancy, but mostly we're going to be talking about other ways of doing things. All right. One more thing I want to talk about, because we're talking about signatures today. We're focusing on signatures. The signature is the inside of the book. It's where your journaling or your sketches will go. And sometimes if you look down at the top of a book, this one is a broken book, so I'm using this one because you're going to be able to see the signatures fairly well. It's these individual sections of a book. I don't know why they're called signatures, but they are. And this is a very old book and is obviously falling apart. It's from 1869. It's called The Autumn Holidays of a Country Parson by the author of The Recreations of a Country Parson, new edition. And it was published in 1869. What I find fascinating is that the author's name is not on the title. The spines often contain the title. This is Mrs. Browning's poems. This one, obviously, Rhythm of War, the title and the author are both on the spine. If this were a library book, the call number would be down here at the bottom. But this book, because it's so old and falling apart, has no spine. So I have no idea who this author is. So this particular book is falling apart so much so that the middle signature has fallen completely out. And if you look closely, you can see these divots. I hope they're showing up on here. If I open it to the middle, you might be able to see them a little bit more. You see the holes in it. Okay, that's where the binding was sewn together so that the whole book would stay together. I don't yet know how to do a sewn binding. Actually, I've watched several videos on it, but I don't have the proper tools yet. So I will not be doing a sewn binding. We're going to be doing something different today. Side note, in some journal making videos, you'll see them use the old books in a variety of ways. Some of them use the book pages in collages. It's kind of nice because it's an artistic way to give an old book some new life. But I'm a bibliophile, and I find purposefully ripping apart a book to reuse parts, something that is very difficult to do. Books are to be treasured, not ripped apart. It was hard enough when I learned how to do active reading and they asked, my professor said, write in your book. Oh my glory, that was really hard. And then I asked my students and said make notes in your book. Again, that was hard enough. Ripping pages out of them, that's even more difficult. In fact, I saw one video where the crafter took a perfectly good book, no problems with it, not old and crappy. All the pages were intact. She ripped all the pages out and used the spine and the cover for her own junk journal. She then used the pages of the book in two ways. One is pieces for her collages. She took the pages out one by one and used them. But then the other part she used as a backdrop for gluing on. It made me want to cry. We get so much junk in this house, but my husband is a painter, a plein air painter, and this is an old Blick catalog, and I use this for my gluing on. I glue on the page, and when it gets too stuck, I just fold it over, and then I glue on here, and when that gets to be too much, I come down here and I use the little one, and when that's all full, I rip it off and throw it away, and then I start all over on a fresh one. Because this is not something that has really any value. None of the prices are good anymore. It's a couple years old. And so catalogs, to me, work really, really well. And we get so many catalogs in this house. I don't know what mailing list we got on, but somehow we got on a mailing list and I get catalogs. So they're much better for gluing on than the pages of a book. So this particular book, I checked online and found that because it's in the public domain, which means anyone can reproduce or reprint it. In fact, it's well in the public domain, 1869. This is well over 100 years old. That because it's in the public domain, there are lots of digital copies as well. It has paperback copies available of this book. I can even buy one from Walmart. So as far as keeping this book, because it might be the only one left in existence, this book has no value. And in fact, when you talk about using pages, the whole spine of this, the way that this was put together, in fact, the covers come right off now, and the front page is coming off. The way this was put together was with a piece of paper over the binding to kind of glue it and all keep it together. You can see how the sewn binding is right there, and you can see all those signatures. And so it already has pages in it that have been reused from something else. I don't know what it was but it was something about colonial law and husbands and grandchildren and something about colonial law. Kind of fascinating to see that. So anyway, my question with this book is, should I leave it as it is, or, does it have any value as a whole piece, or somewhat, the whole is kind of a relative term there, or should I go ahead and break it apart and use it for its parts? I'm still on the fence. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below. So moving on. Creating a signature. For this, you will need, if you're going to do this along with me, you need 10 pieces of paper. This particular paper has been tea-dyed and is of legal size. I will be cutting it down shortly. And in order to do that, you will need a ruler for measuring those pages. You will need a cutter of some sort. I use this particular one. I've had it for many, many years. I think it used to be white. Now it's all yellowed. Some people use a paper cutter, which I'm now hearing referred to as a guillotine. I had never heard that term in school. We always just called it a paper cutter, and every classroom had one, and we all kept our fingers. You will need some binder clips to keep your page, sorry, I keep hiccuping, to keep your pages all lined up. And then I'm using a long stapler, which I recently purchased because I was doing these junk journals in order to keep my signature together. So just to show you what I'm doing, and the whole point of this particular signature, I'm doing a junk journal, kind of a spell book type thing. And I will have, when I'm done, I think 4 signatures. This one is air, and I have completed the signature. This is the whole thing put together. There's the center of it, and you can see how it all goes together. And this will be one section of the book, of the journal. This is the next section. This one is sky, or above, and it's all moons and stars. It is not yet completed. I'm still working on that one. Then there will be one for earth, and there will be one for fire. So there will be 4 signatures in this particular book. Now, I obviously have them at a different size than legal size. Those are 12 inches wide, and I want to make these 12 inches wide. I suppose one of the advantages to having a paper cutter rather than this is you can do a whole lot of pages at a time. I'm going to do probably not that many. That's going to be hard to do. I'll do 3 pages at a time. I have a ruler. I think you can see it. No, not quite. Let me bring it down. There's a ruler as a part of this. So I'm going to measure my 12 inches. That goes right to there. These go in my scrap, and these are part of the signature. This is not hard. Creating the signature is actually the easy part. I have a kind of a curled page there. I'll see if I can uncurl that later on maybe, or put a sticker or something, or so I'll put something over the top of it and you won't even see it. Okay, for the scrap file and signatures. And then the last year, I'm doing 10 of these. Each of my signatures is contains 10 pages. I almost did that to 10. I have to watch my numbers. I want this at 12. Okay, that's at 12. And there we go. I now have my 10 pages. It's important to realize when you're talking about the numbers of pages that the numbers you think, this is 10 pages, but it's not really a 10-page, hang on, lining that up. And some people use a bone folder. I don't have one of those, and I have not found a need for it. I have a old store card that I use, and it is no longer any good. And what I use it for is just making that crease really, really strong, because I want to do it. And you notice I'm doing them individually. I do them individually because, oh, this one has a really pretty pattern on it. I'll talk about that in a minute. I do them individually because I want to make sure that the creases are strong and lined up, and it works quite well. Okay, I don't know if you can see the pattern on this one or not. Get it right there under the camera. When I tea dyed these, I got this idea from Natasha at Treasure Books. I'll try to put her link down in the bottom if I remember. And she, when she was doing her tea dyeing, she put a tablecloth, not a tablecloth, placemat, plastic placemat that was kind of lacy over the top. And as it dried, that pattern, the pattern emerged, which I thought was really cool. So when I did mine, I did the same thing, and guess what? It worked. And I've got some really cool pieces now on there. All right. So going back to the number of pages in the signature. It's important to remember that when you talk about pages in a signature, I have 10 sheets. So you would think, okay, 10 sheets, that means 20 pages, right? Because I'm folding them in half. And I see that when I did this, I must have smudged a little bit there. Again, we'll find a way to cover that up, or maybe it'll become part of the design. However, when you actually count the pages, there are not 20, but 40. Because if you notice, now this is one sheet of paper, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So however many sheets of paper you have, multiply that by 4, and that's how many pages you will actually have. You know, it's funny, back in grade school when we would practice how to fold a piece of paper, I never really thought I'd be doing it quite this much. All right, a couple of extra little sheets there. Let me throw those into my garbage. So there we go. Now I have all my pages together, but this is not a signature. These are simply folded pages. In order to get my signature, I have to put one inside the other, which won't take very long to do at all if I can be coordinated about this. And because these have no patterns on them, these are all plain papers, I'm not trying to match up patterns. I made a signature earlier today that had patterns on it for the first video that I tried to do. And I think I might want to put that one on top. I'm not sure yet. Or maybe in the middle. So I'm going to put all of these this way, putting them all together. And I really like that pattern, and I want to be able to show it off a little bit more. So I'm going to fold it back the other way, and I'm actually going to put that in my middle. So now in the middle of the signature, when you open it up, there will be this pretty pattern. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. It's, like I said, I think this is either earth or fire. I don't know which signature I'm going to do next. But now I've got it all together. You'll notice a couple things. The pages now, because, you know, you have some that are not quite as far in, are not lined up. And you have a choice at this point. You can, once you bind it, you can go ahead and trim those off so that they are all level, or you can leave them kind of out and about so they're different. I'm leaving mine out because, you know, I'll put things on the side. I might put a piece of lace out there. I might do a fold out or something. So I don't think it's going to matter quite as much for that. Okay, the binder clips. Why do we have the binder clips? Because I need to now staple this, and in order to staple it so that it doesn't move around, I want to make sure all my pages are together and they're not going to move once I've got them set. And I have found it is easiest to do one side and then the opposite, and then the same here. This assures me that when I go to do the stapling, nothing will move. And one more clip and we're done. All right. Okay, so now I want my signature to be this way. Eventually this is going to go against the spine of the book. So it won't matter if I have the two pointed ends on the outside, whereas on the inside I'd rather have the flat. So I'm going to do this so that the inside has the flat. By the way, sorry, and I hope you like my yellow. It's nice and bright, and I'm trying to be springy and look good. We're in the middle of January, and I'm in the northeast, the Finger Lakes area of New York State, and it is finally turned chilly here, and we have snow, so I'm brightening up the day because it's a little bit of a dim day. This has a guide on it, which is supposed to help me so that I can do the same in both places. I know this is going to be hard to see from the top. You're not really seeing much. What I'm doing is aligning up the seam. I have a seam or a staple puller because sometimes I don't get it right. So that's my guide. That still doesn't feel like it's quite right. Let me get back here. There we go. I think that's right. Yes, I got it right on the seam, so we're good on that. Okay, coming down to do it again. I'm only putting 2, and hey, I did it right both times. I don't need my seam, I don't need this thing today. Excellent. I could take these off and put those away. Those are pretty colors. I might use those in another journal at some point. All the journals that I make are for sale. I do have an Etsy channel. But at the moment, I only have a couple of things up. I'm still relatively new at this and learning so much. So there's my signature. I have it all together and it's ready to go. It will eventually be worked on so that it will have okay, let's try this one again. This is air. It's all in lavenders and purples. This one is space and the stars, so it's all in blue. If this one, the next one will be, if I do earth, it will be in browns and greens. If I do fire, it will be in reds and oranges. I'm also thinking of doing one in water, which will be turquoise, but it depends. That will be 5 signatures then, and can I actually fit 5 into my journal? We're going to see. So and keep in mind, you could just put a cover on this, and this could be your single journal. It doesn't have to be very big. This one is a larger journal. Let me show you the signature I made earlier. It is much smaller. I made this signature earlier, and you can see, comparatively speaking, it's tiny. This is made with 6x6 papers. I have also stapled it together because this will be eventually the cover for it. I'm making a flower journal that is pocket-sized that could be used by a gardener to record what you have planted this year, or those of you who like to just keep track of what flowers have come up when. Be all sorts of things, but that's going to be a flower journal, and I'm working on that for later. This one's a much larger journal and is taking a lot more time. All right, so in my next video, we'll take a look at decorating these pages and about making how to make journal cards. Journal cards are how I started. When I first started doing this, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I made journal cards. Lots and lots of journal cards of various types and sizes. and themes. And we'll talk all about those the next time. So until then, play safe. And this is Cindy signing off.